I've always been fascinated how professional people handle big, heavy objects and move them around without anybody getting hurt or damaging anything. So my friends Jen and Chris have a 65-foot boat, and we're here in Opua, New Zealand, and they needed to get their mast down in order to get some work done on it. Hello and welcome to the Sailing My Magic channel. My name is Duke and I am sailing Magic, my 2015 Lagoon catamaran, solo around the world. So the first thing I had to do was to take down the boom. Now the boom is much smaller than the mast, but it's also weighs a few hundred pounds. On a 65-foot ship, this boom goes out quite a ways, and they have to suspend it with a crane to get it out of there, but it has to be disconnected from everything. The topping lift, the sails taken down, everything in order to get it ready. Then you need to swing it over to shore. Again, this is a big heavy object that they're swinging over. I'm told that the crane that was used holds up to 850 kilos, which is quite a bit. The crane operator controls everything with a remote control unit that he wears around his waist like a fanny pack, and swing it over to the shore and put the boom down on a couple of wooden blocks. This particular boat has two stays, front stays on it. I assume that one goes to a Code Zero and one goes to a Genoa. I don't really know how they had it rigged, but that would be a typical thing. Both these stays are furling stays, so they have a furling drum at the bottom, and when that's disconnected at the bottom, then they send a guy up the mast to disconnect the stay at the top. The longest one is usually the one that would be taken off. Please click on like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. It's easy, it's free, and it does help me. Now what they usually do is send the skinny, small, young guys up the masts because they're less weight to haul up there and more nimble and flexible. It's a difficult job, but this rigging is something that has to be done. They've got to pull the furler out of the way in order to let it down, and this thing is big and heavy, but it ends up taking multiple people. They have to get the furler out of the way, so one guy will grab this heavy end and pull it to the side while they get the top unbolted, and then they can lower it down on a line. Here a halyard has been attached to the top of the furler, and they can lower that down while the guys pull forward on it on the dock and pull it down away from the boat that way. As it's let down, people will gather it on the dock and walk it out. I was also one of the people walking this out, but couldn't video myself doing it. Then you got to send the guy doing the rigging back up the mast. There's several things to undo up there, and he gets the job of going up and down. When he gets up there, he also has to tie off the mast with the crane and get it looped on there so that the crane can pick up the mast later. It's not as easy as it looks. There's two ways that masts can be stepped. That is how they're attached at the bottom. One way is to step it on the deck. That's how my boat is done. But for the big sailboats, they commonly step them on the keel, which means the mast has to run all the way through the cabin down to the bottom of the boat. And because it's got a hole in the roof to allow the mast to go through there, you have to put some kind of sealant on there. In this case, they use Star-Tite, which is kind of like a fiberglass material. It's a two-part or epoxy, and it forms a really tight seal, but it makes it really difficult to get the mast out. In this case, the mast came out a little bit and then got stuck. And please also note that all the wiring runs down through the mast. Several different lines run through the mast. There's even one hydraulic line that goes back to the back that connects to the mast. It's a very complicated procedure to get it all undone. I didn't show it here, but several of the guys were up there with hammers and screwdrivers and spatula type things to try to break that star tight loose so that the mast would come up the rest of the way. The second furler is shorter, so they can just tie that to the mast. It's also got a smaller furling drum, so it's a little easier to deal with. Then once the seal is broken loose, they can lift the mast up and get it out of the hole. The mast is about maybe 7 or 8 feet down into the boat. As they gently lift it, they have to clear all the lines, wires, everything that's hanging out of the bottom of the mast, and there's a lot. Then the crane lifts the mast completely off the boat and swings it over towards land. The guys put down a piece of hardwood as a cushion to protect the bottom of the mast, because when they tilt it, it will apply some uneven pressure on the ground. So once they have the bottom on the ground, they can tilt it forward and the crane can slowly lower it down while everybody protects things like the spars and the equipment that's on the mast. As you can see, there's still a lot attached to the mast. They don't have to take everything off it, but they do have to make sure that it's under control and doesn't get trapped anywhere. And they have 2 different supports for it, so the mast is on rollers once they get it on there, and that way they can have it where they want it to be when they go to work on it. Please click on like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's totally free and does help me quite a bit. And finally, the mast is all down and everything gets put away. Well done, guys. Now it's time for the sailor's tradition, the sundowner.